There we go. I was muted. We are getting started. As always, we start with a little bit of music before we get started. And of course, I'm going to be using my theme music. That gives everybody time to get in. I'm going to be sharing the live. And then we will get going. Hello. Because this is O.P.P Vibe. So yes, this is the theme music here. Come on in, everybody. Welcome in. We are just getting started. I am sharing the live. I am giving people time to get in. If you know anyone who will be beneficial to the conversation or that could benefit from the conversation, please feel free to have them come into the Clubhouse room or right here on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm doing some sharing into different places. Hey, Auntie Ree. Maria. I'm trying to get this thing shared to my Facebook, and it's not sharing. But you know what? We're going to get this thing shared. Here we go. We're going to get this thing shared right now. Better count you now down with a discount. All right, so I'm doing one more share, and then the song should be done in just a little bit, and then we will get started. There we go. All right. All right. I got to share like I need to. Well, tonight's discussion I'm really excited about. I'm always excited about my discussions. So continue to ping people into the room. If you're here on Facebook, feel free to share it out. If you are here on Instagram, definitely feel free to share it as well. Oh, of course it's going to go there because of the music. They are getting really, really, really temperamental when it comes to this music. So I always try to talk over it as much as I can. Doesn't always work, but that is why I talk so much at the beginning. Because, of course, they shut it down. And I didn't even think about it. So I am restarting this on Instagram because it shut it down. And then we will get going. Thanks a lot, Instagram. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this music down because it does not like me having the music on, apparently. Thank you, Not About Nature, for providing us with our theme music that got us shut down on Instagram. That was not the plan. So welcome, everybody, to tonight's O.P.P Vibe, formerly known as Sex and Relationship Chat, where every single Tuesday I am bringing you a new topic on all things life, love, and intimacy. This topic in particular, I wanted to talk about because it is something that comes up pretty frequently. And it is on the topic of, are we splitting bills or not? I just put it in young people terms. All right. So I'm doing two things. I want to try and do technology in this. So the questions that I ask, if you are on my Facebook or Instagram account, I posed the question of who pays on the first date. And then I posed the question of who pays after 8 dates. Well, then I even progressed forward and I said, well, who pays in a relationship? And then who pays when it comes to an actual marriage? Now, granted, all of those answers will, of course, be totally different because all of the situations are different. However, it's still it's a real question. We have a lot of people who are extremely traditional and feel like no matter what, the man is supposed to pay for everything. And that's perfectly okay if that's the way you choose to run your household or your life. But then I ask, like, what if it is a female who decides that she is going to invite a guy out? Is she still responsible for paying, or is he responsible for paying? Who's responsible for paying for this first date? And I put a poll up and I did get some responses. We have some people, and thank you, those who have joined us here on Clubhouse. Please feel free to raise your hand and come on up and be an interactive part of the conversations. If you would like to add value, differ from opinions, because as you know, I'm not here to be right. I'm only to be heard. And if anything that I say can at least get the conversation started in your home, I've done my job. So I had some people say, it's one young lady, and I love her perspective on it. And I'm going to paraphrase what she said. She said that, of course, when it comes to her marriage, they're splitting the bills 50-50. She said, but when it comes to a first date, she likes to kind of secretly pay for their date so that she loves to feel the appreciation that she's given after the fact. And I like that perspective. And I think that's awesome because we all have different minds and we all think very differently. But that is a very different way to look at it. Do you need that almost instant gratification of something? And thus, if you pay for it and someone's like, oh, that was so special, I appreciate you, does that make you feel like, oh, would they know that I really care about them? Or is it just a nice gesture? Because some people are definitely very nice. So Rio de Janeiro here on Facebook says, I believe it's up to the person who asked the other out. Very good point. That is kind of what I'm thinking about in my head. But crazy enough, you have some people who are, and I'll say some women, not all women, you have some women who would feel like, I'm going to go ahead and be forward enough to ask this person to go out on a date, but then I'm going to lay back in the old tradition and feel like he should pay for the date. And it's like, well, you really can't have it both ways. Which way are you looking to have this? And are you sending mixed signals when you do this? If you're going to be in that forward thinking position of, I'm confident in myself as a woman that I'm not going to just sit back, put on my makeup and be cute and wait to be caught. I'm going to go after what I want. And if you're going to go with that position, you should be okay with paying for the date. That's just my opinion. Thank you, Jimmy, for joining us up on the stage. Did you want to add to the conversation or have a question?
It's a pleasure as always. Well, it's kind of tricky, isn't it? Because I guess all traditional ways, whether it was stereotypical or not, is the men pay. But now there's obviously the Me Too movement. There's obviously high-valued women. There's obviously people are working and they want to earn. They work hard for their money and they want to be able to enjoy it too. And then you get arguments sometimes in dates where they're arguing about paying who's paying what. Mm-hmm. Whether it's for banter, whether it's for joke, it's another scenario. So I guess social norms or whatever it is, they say, yeah, the men will pay. For me, if I've asked somebody will pay for things, and if they wish to contribute, fine. If they don't, the original plan is because I've invited them to come over, or invited them to do spend time with me. I will sort that out, and if they wanted to add anything additional, and I'm finished, setting the plan up, and they want to go somewhere, and they want to pay for it, who am I to argue with that? But at the same time, I guess there's another thing as well where there's also ego and pride, and the psychology
yes.
behind the dynamics where the man might not think he's sufficient enough because he hasn't, he's allowed the woman or it is. The woman has paid regardless of whether it's allowed or not allowed. So it's kind of interesting. I can't really comment on that, and I don't wish to. Maybe if there were other people, men in there who different where they are in their progression to be able to comment on that. But I'm Jimmy, and that's it. Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. Thank you for that perspective. And I hope you guys were able to hear. I like that. Like you said, if someone is asking you, then, well, for me, like if I'm being asked out, number one, I am going to come with, my own money. That's just something that your mama always told you. Never go out without your own money. But in my thought process, if someone's asking me out, then I'm not expecting to pay. But we don't know how someone else has been brought up. And they may feel like, okay, I may have asked you, however, we should pay for our own. Or because maybe one person knows that the other one makes more money. So they're like, well, then I expect you to pay. But I think, like you mentioned, I believe you said it comes down to communication of it all. And granted, when you meet somebody and you ask them out, the first thing is not going to be, well, who's going to pay for this date? I get that part. But there should be some kind of conversations around it. So the first date one may be a little bit sticky, whereas back in the day, it was kind of straightforward. The person that asks is the one that pays, or because typically it would have been the man, the male figure in the dynamic that would have been, or the person that asked would have been the one to pay. And of course, when I speak, I want to make sure that I am speaking in an exclusive terms, because every dynamic is not male, female. So when I say the person that's, the male or dominant person of the relationship that would have asked, that would have been the assumption that they also are going to pay. There are people that, some women who really do kind of straddle the women empowerment fence. And I'm really kind of carefully making sure I pick my words appropriately, because I don't want to offend anyone. And if you all know, in my coaching practice, I'm all about just helping women to understand and acknowledge their value and their worth and set those personal boundaries. And guess what? This is a part of that. When you are going out on a first date with someone, that is one of the first boundaries that you will ever set. You may never go out with this person again. You don't know this because you're getting to know them on this first date. However, in my personal and professional opinion, I feel like the very first time that you are going out on an actual date with someone is going to be the very first time that you're enacting your personal boundaries. And so that's where that communication piece really does come into play. What are your expectations? What do you think it should be? What does it look like to you? Without being able to say those things out loud and upfront, it shows up should you decide to have a relationship. It shows up later as you change or an argument potentially. So Alistair Ford here on Facebook says, it's the way you present the date. You say, let's meet for dinner. Cost is mutual and casual. If you say, can I take you out? You, the asker, is expected to pay. It's a date. I like that. See, how many people didn't even think about that? We have to say what we mean and mean what we say. That's what Alistair here on Facebook is telling us. If you're saying, let's meet for dinner, when you're meeting someone, that's two people coming to a mutual place and we're meeting up. Now, just because I understand it to be that doesn't mean that the person I'm meeting with understands that to be that. Because again, we're not all raised in the same environment. We don't all know the same things. So if you're saying, even to, hey, let's meet at the club and go out. And I walk in, we meet at the club. I walk in the line, I pay my $20 to get in, and then I keep walking. And you standing there looking at me like, well, what about me? We're meeting there, you know? And if you didn't know, which again, you know, sometimes we don't know what we don't know, you may not know to ask. Should I, you know, a easy way to try to figure this thing out without coming out and saying, well, who's paying for this? Is you can say, should I bring cash or my card? How easy and easy out of asking who's paying is it then to figure out, does this place only take cash or will they take my card? So if you're uncomfortable trying to figure out, because someone has asked you to meet them somewhere, who's going to pay this thing? Either way, you know, never go out without money. That's a given. But I also know that a lot of us don't carry cash these days. Cash is in your phone. Cash is on a card. So not a lot of us actually carry physical cash. So if you definitely are asking someone out on a date, hey, I would love to take you, I would love to take you out for dinner. That would imply that I am the one that's going to be paying for this dinner for you. So it's definitely, so Rio de Janeiro here on Facebook said, it's all about perspective. He is right. Yes, you are, Allison. That's why it should be a transparent interaction between two people. Yes, that transparency on the front end is going to save you so much headache and potential heartache on the back end. So boom, we've made it through the first date. And you know, another reason why I brought this up, and then I'm going to go on to the 8 dates in, is I watch a show, and it's a little, I think the season had already run, but it's called Ready to Love. And, you know, it's where 10 women, 10 men, they all meet at this one place and they date each other until they dwindle down to 3 couples. Well, one of the young ladies had already dated one of the guys there. And she said on their second date, she had, the bill came, she had to go to the restroom. She left her card on the table. So she didn't assume, and this was their second date, she didn't assume that he was paying. So she left her card there. She said she went to the restroom and came back, and her card had not been touched or moved. And so she said that she thought that that was weird, that he allowed her to pay for dinner. And so she ghosted him, this is a new thing nowadays. That's a conversation for a whole nother day. This whole ghosting mess is it should have been left on the graduation stage in high school. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that's not here nor there right now. And so she just ghosted him, blocked him, never called him back. And so here they are in this house. And so I guess she took this opportunity because she really did like him to talk to him about it, which should have been done back then. Come to find out, while she was gone, he attempted to pay for it, but the card that he had declined. And so he said he bought the wrong credit card out. So since she offered, because she placed that card down, he was like, well, since you offered anyway, he allowed her to pay. Now, had those two been mature adults that were out, a conversation could have been had about how she felt. And it probably could have been talked about that night or even the next night versus, well, I'm just not going to talk to him anymore and totally bash him to every one of her girlfriends. And luckily she didn't bash him on the show when they asked, what happened between them. She just gave the scenario. Well, I'm glad that he was able to give exactly what happened, which, for me, for him, I think it was a little weird that he wouldn't say, hey, while you were gone, I tried to pay for this, but apparently I bought the wrong card out. I appreciate you, making that gesture to pay. I would love to return this back to you, blah, 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 if whatever. So now they're all back in good graces and good terms. So for me, for that particular situation, I would look at this even deeper than that. There's going to be communication blocks between them should they decide to go further. So me asking these general questions, who pays on the first date? Who pays after 8 dates? It's not just about the bills and who pays for what. It's also about the communication, as we've all been talking about here, right? So, all right, you decided that the male or the dominant person or the person that asks for the date is who pays for the date. So here we are, 8 dates in. We're still dating because, hey, sometimes you want to take your time dating. If you watch my video on Date Them All, if you haven't, go back to my IGTV or my YouTube, which is Coach K101, and watch that Date Them All. You want to take your time in dating. So you're 8 dates in. Are you expecting that male or the male dominant or the dominant person in a relationship to continue to pay every single time? Would you ever be the one that says, hey, I would love for us to go on more dates, and then you do like she did and meaningfully pull your card out to pay? Not as a test. Tests are fun, they're great, but your response shouldn't be ghosting people after your test versus communication, turn it into a learning lesson afterwards. When do you start to say, okay, we split bills? Maybe we think back to what Alistair Forrest said. When I say we're going to meet at Sunset Park for ice cream, honestly, somebody's going to pay for that individually, but you never know, right? Communication is going to be key with that. So let's jump all the way into the relationship.
Can we mention something?
Speak up just a little bit because I got you. I want to make sure that we can hear you here on Facebook land too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess there's the thing, there's the mindset or some psychology on, and again, this is based on past the individual's past experiences or how it's shown to be, that if the assumption is that the man will continuously to pay, and there's not communication from the female to say it's okay or not okay. One, it will be like, is she a gold digger, for example? The man might think that, or for the woman, it'd be like, okay, well, I'm paying, so he's not man enough, he's not charismatic enough to do that. So sometimes there's these barriers, and you've highlighted something very, very sort of valuable now, that in 2021, all these young kids growing up now, the dynamics and the way we should be, showing people you can still have tradition, but at the same time, we can't force. I'm not gonna go and argue and force somebody if they want to pay for it or not, but I would still appreciate it, like you said, communication. I'll value and appreciate it, or I'll just say next time it's my turn.
Yeah.
Because, and then I've pre-said it already. But again, all of these questions, if you have it before you even have a date, then you won't have the awkwardness of experiencing it face to face, but yeah, I'm out. Thank you.
I love what you said. And I have a live studio audience here. And when you said that, he said that's exactly what he thinks. If he is, if he's the one that's continuously paying, and he does enjoy male companionship on his dates, and he said he does look at them as kind of less than. So that is a mindset. And you're absolutely right. And we don't always think about that. And thank you for joining us on the stage, Empress Africa, Miss Ivory Moses. How do you feel this evening about this topic? And let's hear from you.
Hi. Good evening, Coach K. How are you?
I'm good.
Jimmy, how are you? I kind of just popped in the room, so I really caught like the ending of what Jimmy was saying, but I did see the title. And we split the bills or nah. Let me see. Okay, so I grew up in a very traditional household. My dad went to work. You know, he clocked in every morning. He did his thing. He clocked out. He came home, and he made sure he had that damn money on a dresser for my mama to pay the bills. That's just how it was. That's what I grew up seeing. But you know, as I got older, you know, I just understood the importance of teamwork and effort, because you know that's what a relationship is. It's teamwork. So do I believe in splitting the bills? Yes, I do. I believe that everything should be split down 50-50. I just think that that's just how you should operate. That for me, that's how you should operate. I don't think that the traditional way is necessarily a bad thing, but come on now, women nowadays, sisters have upgraded. Women have upgraded. We are about we're doing our thing. We are independent. We are successful.
Yes.
And we can go and get the bacon as well. So I don't think that we should leave that financial burden of covering all the bills on our men. I don't think that we should do it, or on our partner, regardless of which way you swirl. Because Empress Africa is down with the swirl too. Either way, so yeah. But yeah,
I know that's right.
Listen, I don't care if you're going left, right, sideways. Listen, it's all good with me. But I do think that splitting the bills is definitely the way to go. It's team effort. Empress Africa, and I am out.
All right. Yes. I love that. And you brought up a really good point, because we were going into that when it comes to an actual relationship or marriage, that split. And again, like you said, many of us that are, I would say in the even 30 to 35 and up crowd, what we saw and what our parents lived and their parents lived is the women, they were home. They made sure home was the peaceful place, so that when dad came home, or the male figure of the house came home from working all day, they could just be completely at peace. And while home, mom didn't have to worry about the light bill, the water bill, the mortgage, the car note, the this, the that. Now, as we progressed and we started to come into our own, as women started to realize, hey, we can contribute something, and then I'm pretty sure once we started to contribute, we felt how good it felt. Now we understood that pride that the men had when they were able to provide for their family. When we started to feel that, it became, we can do this too. This feels good, because unfortunately, no one really recognized the work that you did just in the home. It was a given. You were just supposed to. So when you were able to go outside of the home and contribute to the bills in the home, or maybe now you can go on vacations because your income has added to, or maybe we can now get the big screen TV or whatever it is. As a woman, you felt that pride that the men were able to feel. And so that's what we enjoy. It feels good to contribute to the household bills. Not for everyone, but as time went on, it then became almost a power struggle. It's like it went, too far one-sided, and it made it as if the person who pays all the bills wins. And that became an issue in the household. It also became a thing of, well, if I pay all of the bills, she won't see that I bought an extra negligee when I bought hers that went out. Now, I ain't saying everybody out here cheating. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and put that disclaimer out here. Put out here very clear. However, when you are negligent about seeing, knowing where the money in the household goes, it is easy for you to almost lose yourself and lose control of how you feel as a contributor into the household. So I do think that all parties paying the bills should be a thing. How they're split should be of a reasonable sort. So I think that you should determine which bills are actually joint bills. And I think for the most part, they are the necessities: electric, water, mortgage, car if you share. But for me, if you start to split hairs so much like that, it can potentially become detrimental. But again, to each their own and how it's going to be done. So once you determine which bills are joint, then you put the total together and you determine, well, I know that if the wife makes $120K a year and the husband makes $150K a year, you probably can each go half and half on that. It doesn't need to be any kind of 70-30, 80-20 type of split. And then even with that split, it can become a power struggle again. If someone's chest is a little bit more pumped out because they pay a little bit more of the bills, even though your income is not that much off and you're all, you're enjoying the luxuries of the home. Just knowing that percentage could be a thing. So I think with all of it, as we just said many, many times, it's going to be the communication piece. And if we can't figure it out as a people, human beings can't figure out things from date one, first date, and then we autopilot it through into a relationship and into marriage, then that's the scary thing. One of the top 3 reasons that marriages end has to do with finance. And it's because we don't talk about freaking finance. We don't talk about finance and we don't talk about sex. 2 of those things are damn important in a relationship. I don't care what nobody say. They are important. They might not be the end all be all, but doggone it, you need both to have health and thrive. Sex is not, of course, just intercourse. Please remember that. But those are things that we act like we would just rather bury our heads in the sand than to even have this conversation that I'm having today. You just kind of go through the motions. I'll tell you, when I first met my husband, I was always in a management position. He was not always in a management position. And we weren't, quote unquote, splitting anything. He brought his check home. It went into the bank. He kept a certain amount for himself. And I paid the bills based on our money. It wasn't just, well, you put this amount, you put that. It was our money. And then one day, I made him for 2 weeks. I wanted it to be a month. But for 2 weeks, I made him pay all the bills from our account. Because what I said was, if anything happened to me, I need for you to know how and where to pay the bills. So we never really had well, you pay this and I pay this, da, da, da. We just knew the money was going to come into this pot and the bills would get paid. So fast forward 15 years later of this working the way that it worked, May 2020, I lost my job. These are some of the unforeseeable things that come up. Your partner could pass, you lose your job, something tragic happens and medical bills go up. Anything can happen. But if you did not have that financial conversation in the beginning, it shows up, and it will show up every single time. So now he's the main contributor bill-wise to the house, but it doesn't make me feel less than, because we've always talked about finance. We always knew where we stood with finance. And I'm just fine with not. I mean, I contribute by, I guess, watching these churn around here and, growing my business. But there are not a lot of people who would be able to take a position of, you know what, I'm not monetarily contributing right now, and still feel a sense of pride. And it's usually because their partner does not give them the space to still feel as if they're contributing something to the relationship and to the home. And so when we make finance such a taboo topic to talk about or not talk about, it doesn't go anywhere. But it can absolutely strangle the life out of your relationship. So if no one hears me today, hear this. If you are ready to go out with someone on a first date, and yeah, I'm making you think way into the future, and you are not open to figure out who's going to pay the bill, keep those play dates happening, because you may not be ready to have conversations that you need to have in order to maintain any type of healthy, ongoing relationship. And I'll preface it with this. Yes, I am making a very general statement, because nobody's going on a first date to find, their forever. Well, some people do, but you may not find your forever person on that first date. But get yourself used to having those conversations. Maybe say that. Should I bring cash or card? I'm not familiar with this place that we're going to. And if the person say, oh, you don't, why are you bringing any money? I got this. Then you kind of know where things stand. But it's okay to have those conversations. A missed conversation in the beginning turns up as a you've changed conversation down the line, especially when it comes to money. Because in this world that we live in, and these here Americas, money is equivalent to power. And that's because we've lost a sense of ourself being the source of power. You have people who survive every day, and they are happy as a hog in shit, who don't have a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out, or 2 nickels to rub together. Bet you can't figure out why they're so happy. Well, they ain't got to worry about money. They've used their self as their own power source, and they figure things out. I've seen families live on the street, some who would prefer to do it. Now, that's, again, extreme. I like to talk in extremes sometimes. But I'm really talking about the importance of figuring out, when you're in a relationship, asking, what are your views on finances in the house? Ask that question. Maybe it's date 6. If you've been on 6 dates, you got to know this person. It's starting to ease in some of those real conversations of later on. Because, again, on that show, Ready to Love, one of the reasons why this one guy got sent home after being on that show, I think he had been on 6 weeks, and he only dated one girl. And when it was time for the family to meet, mine was 8 weeks, they were having a conversation, and one of the friends said something about paying the bills. And he said, oh, I think that we would split the bills. And the girl, she brought it back a little bit. And she said, split the bills. I don't split no bills. I don't want no man to be talking about splitting bills if you're not going to be in my house splitting bills. And because he only was dating her because that's who he was feeling, he got sent home after that. And so for me, maybe those questions should have come up long before they were narrowing down to the final 3 couples. Maybe we need to learn each other better on the front end, know people's values, know how they've been raised, understand the dynamics that they feel like a relationship should be or what it looks like, and see, does that match up with what you're looking for? And finance needs to be a part of that freaking conversation. Just like sex drives change, bank accounts change, but the values that you have around your finances may not change. That's how you're going to think. If you were raised in a household, as that young lady was, well, her dad paid all the bills and mom just worked. And that's how she wanted it to be for herself. Some people see that and then they grew up and say, that's not what I want for myself. But that's how she wanted it. And had they had that conversation by week 2 or week 3, he would have had enough know-how to say, you know what? She's probably not going to be the person that I'm going to be with down the road long term because our financial outlook and value on the relationship don't match up. So I need to see and talk with someone else. Stop being scared to talk about damn finances early on in these relationships. It don't go nowhere. Finances will always be a part of your relationship, period. And Empress, if there's any time that you want to jump in, please feel free to unmute your mic because I'll run my mouth the entire time, just so you know.
That's fine. That's fine, Coach K. You always have like great jewels to drop, so that's perfectly okay. My mom always said, as long as you're talking about something important, I can hear you. I can listen to you. So you're fine. I think you're awesome. The only thing I wanted to really touch on is like the whole power struggle thing. Like that was really, really dope that you mentioned that because I noticed a lot of times. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. I told you I grew up in a household where my dad was, everything was really traditional. My dad, he went out, he brought back the bacon, and my mom kind of just cooked it and threw it in the pan and fried it up. So with that being said, nowadays, it's pretty much expected. A lot of the guys nowadays are not really that traditional. Mm-hmm. Not the ones I've met. They out there. Somebody introduced me to them. I haven't really met too many traditional men. The men nowadays, they usually expect for you to go 50-50 with them. Mm-hmm. And when it's a situation where you're not going 50-50 with them, when you're trying to just, I guess, just chill and not really, contribute financially to the relationship, they walk around with their chest swole. They walk around with their chest swole and they just have this arrogance about them and this control factor. Like, okay, since I'm paying all the damn bills, I want this like this. It becomes more controlling than anything. So, like, for a woman that's dealing with that type of situation, how, aside from cooking, cleaning, which is like the traditional stuff, what can she do to feel like the equal in the household? What would you suggest?
Honestly, if you're living in a relationship and in a household where the money is the powerful piece, and you almost feel less than, you feel like you're not contributing, number one, a full-blown conversation needs to happen because this can wear on your mental severely. The second thing is, even guidance from a coach like myself, being able to understand and recognize your value. And so a mother in the household, and I like to say this a lot, you have to think of your household as your business. And as mom, you're the CEO of your business. And so you're the one that's ensuring that, yes, it's dad's money, but you have to make sure that the mortgage company gets it. The light people get it. The car people get it. You have to make sure that if something needs to be repaired, that the repair people are paid. You have to make sure that if the children are sick, that you're attending to the children. If the house needs to be straightened or clean, that you're making sure that it is clean, whether it be by yourself or if you hire help to come in and help you to clean the house. So as the woman, your contribution as the CEO of your house is to honestly be the woman first. Your womanhood matters. Understand and start being prideful in yourself. If you have children in the household, you've already done a huge feat by producing a whole doggone life that you are taking care of every day, because children just don't wake up when dad gets home from work or when he's off for the day. They're ongoing always. When the school calls, you're handling it. When it's time to pay taxes, you're making sure those dates are kept. Appointments, you're making them. People need to eat, you're cooking the food. I tell you one thing, if you want to see how much value you actually have in your home, stop doing everything that you do for 3 days. I'm not going to even tell you don't do it for a week. Stop doing what you do for 3 days, and somebody will crumble to their damn knees and beg for your forgiveness for them never acknowledging the value that you actually have in the home. How about that for you?
Yes. I agree 100%. That's like the perfect answer. Yes, you got to go on strike. Ladies, you got to start going on strike. When your man is walking around with his chest all swole, we got to start going on strike. Let them, as you said, crumble to their knees. Let them crumble to their damn knees. Now, let me not make this a gender war. Listen, Empress Africa gonna come in here and turn it up a little bit.
Ain't no
I see my girl Jetty down there. Queen Jetty, what's going on?
Hey Jetty, feel free to come on up and join us for the conversation. We got some time left in here. But I do enjoy when we can place value on ourselves as women. Like I said, I haven't worked since May 2020. And sometimes I have to remind myself that this house hasn't burned down to the ground because I ensure that all things and all systems are a go. I'm trying to invite you up and it's acting real weird and crazy at this point. I don't know why. There you go. Hey, Jetty, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good.
Jetty, what's going on?
Hey, Empress Africa, how are you?
I'm good, Queen. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm getting a lot done.
Awesome. So we talking about splitting the bills or nah? What you think? Nah or split the bills?
Nah.
All right, tell us about it. Come on, Miss Jetty, talk to us about it.
Okay, because I subscribe to gender roles, and I think that if a man is asking you out, then he is supposed to pay for the whole date. And as far as going 50-50, okay, I'm not looking for a roommate. And if we're doing 50-50, I'm thinking that's more of a roommate situation than a marriage/committed relationship. So the answer is no. I think that he should be paying the bills. I mean, that's what I think. If I'm working, of course, I will contribute to, I would take care of, the extras, the self-care things for myself. But as far as like, okay, we're going to split this mortgage, no.
I know that's right.
The mortgage. Because I can always get a roommate. People need roommates every day. I'm not looking for a roommate. And that's why I say, and I think, like I said, I also subscribe to gender roles. And paying the bills, I think that's part of the man's gender role. This is Jetty. I'm done speaking.
I love that you brought that up because they're not, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. not in, the specific terms, but again, there are people who still are of the traditional, this is what you do and this is what I do. And while me and my husband never said it out loud, that's how he was raised. That, both his mom and dad worked, of course, but he was raised as the provider, the protector. And so he would maybe keep, I think it was maybe $10 or $15 out of his check, and the rest just went in the bank because he knew that the bills would get paid. And so that's how he was raised. But we talked about finances. So for me, when Jetty meets someone, she would let them know right up front, this is how I move. And those are the things that you have to be open to talking about. When Empress Africa meets someone, she's going to be open about, this is how I move. And so either people subscribe to it or they don't. The one thing that I will say is, if you can't have that conversation, don't expect to have what it is that you actually want later on, because you didn't open that door to see what was in it. So if you open it and you get bit by a damn lion, it's going to be on you.
Coach K, in Empress Africa, I had a situation when I was in a room and I said the exact same that I just said to you. And what was told, a lady asked me, can I ask you a question? And when someone asked that, I'm like, oh, here we go. And she asked me, she said, during the dating phase, do you believe in, would you cook during the dating phase? Which is the attraction phase. And I said, sure. And she said, well, would you be paying for the food? And I said, yes. And I don't think I gave her the answer that she anticipated because the room went on to other things. That's not the same. I'm thinking, what do you think? Do you think that is? And see, there is this sentiment, and I'm sure you've probably seen the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And the sentiment is that I'm unreasonable. Like, some women believe that I'm not reasonable and that I'm not keeping up with 2021 and that 50-50 is fine and that I am not being fair at all. But unless things have changed, men still get paid more than women for doing the exact same job. And that's another factor, but that does tie into that, because there's this sentiment, there seems to be this sentiment that we don't need as much money as men do for the same job because we don't have a whole family taking care of us, that our income is more like auxiliary income and not the main income, or, that the family's not really dependent on our income, which is not true. But yeah, there are women who have come after me in rooms for that. Well, I shouldn't say come after me, but have that been really opposed to what I say. And I have also offended some men because, yes, I did say in one room that it was effeminate for a man to want you to go 50-50 on dates. But I was specifically talking about the
Lord,
dates.
No, you didn't. Lord, no, you didn't. I'm so glad I wasn't in that room. I'd have been like, oh, no.
People. Yes.
Now, I will agree that to me, it is totally different. And I think when some women can get out of their compartmentalized box and recognize that if I'm cooking for you on a date and we just met, I'm not going to say bring all of the food and I'm going to cook. If I'm cooking for you, of course I'm going to purchase the food. That's totally different than you asking me out on a date and you paying for it because you asked me out, or I subscribe to the gender roles and I expect you to, because number one, I'm going to tell you up front, yes, two totally different things. What she thought you was going to say was you wanted him to buy the food, but you have more sense than that. And I think that when we can stop trying to put everything in a box, I think this dating thing would be so much better. I think this marriage thing would be so much better. When we can stop all this hashtag relationship goal bullshit and focus on what works for us, that is where we're going to progress. If I'm able to say up front to a man, this is how I foresee my household or my future household with my partner to be. This is what it looks like for me. They either can understand and get with it. They can understand it, have a conversation, and then y'all can figure out if y'all get with it, or they can say that's not for me. That's just the bottom line. Now, I can honestly see, some guys will come after you for saying they feminine want to go 50-50. But the thing is, it's just that some guys were honestly, every man was not raised to be the same. And you have some women who will tell their child, their male child, don't be paying for everything for them because da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think those women that tell their male children that are speaking from a place of, you're my son. And no woman, you should be doing more for a woman. You should not be doing more for any woman than you would do for me. And so unfortunately, there are a lot of women who almost sway the men's mind and teach them in a way that could be harmful to a healthy relationship, or be open to what a different relationship looks like. And so with that, I would always, that's why I say you have those conversations up front. You find out, because every 2-parent home is not amazing and every single parent home is not horrible. It's what's being taught in them. Because while I came from a single parent home and my husband came from a 2-parent home, we both had our issues on different scales. What he saw as a marriage and what I didn't see as a marriage is where we conflicted to learn, to grow, to figure out the things for ourselves. Because he knew what he did not want in a marriage. And I had no clue what the hell I wanted other than what I figured out in my head. But I was able to formulate it on my own. And when it came to the finances, yes, I started out as a single mom, so I knew I had to take care of everything. That was just my thing. So when my husband has shown me, and he will always be the one, even when he made less than me, his thing was, I'm putting my whole check in the bank. I'm going to keep this little $10, $15 to make it stretch into the next week because he got paid every week. But he just put his money in the bank. It wasn't well, I'm going to give you this on this bill. And I ain't going to lie. I will probably look at you sideways and you tell me what you're going to give me on a bill. That's just me. But I think that because we had so much open communication up front, that's why we were able to work. So for the women who are in those rooms that are of this, we need to be this. It needs to be like this. I would pose the question to them. How long have you been married? How long have you been happily married? And how is it working?
Yeah. One of them, the one that asked the question, I recognize her voice. It's the one I was thinking about. I don't think she's ever been married, if I recall correctly. But the thing about it is that it seems to be in some of the rooms I've been in that the women are some of the women are trying to get chosen. Mm-hmm. So what they're doing is that they're flexing.
Well, we are at the hour mark for you guys. We're going to keep this conversation going on Clubhouse. If you want to be on Clubhouse, come on, join me at CoachK101.com. Excuse me, Coach K on Clubhouse. You can join my Facebook group at CoachK101.com. Be a community member and you can always get more. Y'all have a good night and I will see y'all later. Come on over to Clubhouse. Coach K101. Night, y'all.
But because I'm just trying to bend